Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Cheryl Ginnings, author of It Takes Courage to Be a Caregiver. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Are you ready to get started?
I am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, most people think that their story is not worth anything, and they really procrastinate for way too long. They need to just start thinking in terms of, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go till I finish.
Absolutely. And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, one of the things that most people find is they're not sure where to go, who to talk to, and there is the misconception that publishers are just waiting to contact people who are writing books. And that's actually not easy to get a publisher seeking the writer unless they already have a great reputation. They have books under their belt already. And so learning how to go through the process of finding a way to get published seems to be one of the hardest things. So I would suggest that they try to do a little bit of research and find out who's most successful in helping them get published.
And then with your book, It Takes Courage to Be a Caregiver, did you go through the traditional routes or did you publish the book yourself?
Well, I actually had been invited to be in some other books with a publisher that was in Dallas, and then they offered to publish the book for me and went through helping me edit and find the cover and doing all the work. It was like a self-published work with the help of a publisher.
It's almost like a hybrid, essentially.
Right, But it made it where it was cheaper to get out there. The only thing is that when you're going through getting your own books published, that you don't realize how much marketing needs to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that somebody like you would be really good at helping market the books.
Yeah, because it really is a process. Even if you go through a traditional, even a big 5 publisher, they still expect you to do a lot of the marketing. And you brought up a great point with publishers, those that are looking for authors, because typically those publishers, they're looking for authors that already have an established platform via Twitter, Instagram, their blog, Facebook. They don't really want to mess around with the marketing, so they want to go to authors that already have that following and go, hey, we'd like to help you with your book, but you're still going to be responsible to do the marketing. And I think that's one of the biggest eye-openers that we have now for aspiring authors is the fact that they must realize that you are going to be responsible for the lion's share of the marketing unless you actually use a hybrid publisher or a different marketing agency to get the word out there.
Right. Well, and those are things that if you're not already familiar with marketing, it's a very complex process to figure out what really works and what doesn't. It takes a lot of time, doing a lot of research, trying to find out, okay, how do other people get their books out there, and how do they get found by people who really want that information, but they don't know their book is available.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Well, I guess the best thing that I've been able to do is actually to go speak for free somewhere and sell the books at the back of the room or have book signings, because people that know me, in an area, I guess I'm more thinking about local areas, but then I have gone out of the country even with one of the books. But the getting out there where people know you and getting somebody to say, I will sponsor you having a book signing is probably one of the best ways that I did it, because people seem to pay attention on social media that I was having a book signing, and then been able to do that. And of course, when you're speaking, to be able to sell the books at the back of the room. But as far as marketing online, it's been very tough. There have been some sites that I've spent money trying to promote my husband's new book, which is, I'm trying to help him too. And there was a site that said that they would publish the book, about the book, on a lot of different social medias, but I'm not really sure I've ever found all the places that they said they were going to send the information.
Well, and sometimes they make
so
it a
finding
mystery.
you would be the easiest thing.
Yeah, well, I was just
finding someone like you is better.
Well, and I was just going to bring up the point that you mentioned too, because there are some of these book promo companies. They promise you the moon and the stars. They're like, yeah, I'll get it for all these different social media outlets, and we have 250,000 Twitter followers. But what they don't realize is, yeah, they're posting your book, but that's all it is. They're doing a post to the link of your book. They might or might not do an image, and quite frankly, from what I've seen, unless you already have a connection. So if you have a connection with a follower that you have on Twitter or on Instagram, the likelihood of them buying your book is much better. However, if you're utilizing a book promo service that is promising you the moon and the stars of social media, this is probably not going to convert very well, because all they're doing is sending out probably tweets or posts for like 20 different books that they've got in the promo stack for that day. And that's why I always recommend that if you are going to utilize book promo companies, that you work with someone like myself or another book marketer that already has a sequence and a system, that we're not only utilizing one promo company, that we're utilizing 20 plus companies. But the other thing is, when you are going to work with a book promo company, you want to make sure that you sign up for the service in which that they're going to actually send an email out to their list. I think that's one of the biggest things, because I think if they send it via social media, doing like tweets and posts, whatever else, that's not going to convert very well. But if they are sending it to their newsletter list, so if they've got 50,000 or 100,000 people on their list, and yours is one of the featured books, then that's going to be more impactful, because that message is actually going to someone's email box, because they might not necessarily be on Twitter, they might not be on Instagram that day and seeing what's going on. Does that make sense?
It does. I just got an invitation from somebody that I really didn't read very well, and I haven't done anything about it, but they were saying, oh, you need to go with us because we've got like 1 million people, behind us. But I don't know exactly if they're just people that are other authors or if they're people that are looking for books. So it's really hard for someone who hasn't been in the market of publishing and marketing their own book to really understand all of the ins and the outs of how to get that book out there to be something that others recognize is a helpful piece of advice. For instance, mine is really about a tremendous issue of the problem we have with caregivers, and 67% pass away before the person they're caring for. And we're running out of caregivers, and we're getting more of an older society. It's a very needed book, but people don't look for that information until they're in that situation. So the marketing is something that is lacking on my own book.
Well, it's a process. We didn't have the perfect launch, and we got our first book out there. I mean, one of the things with my own company, we launched the first book. Fortunately, it became a bestseller. But, we realized there was a lot of things that we could do better in that launch. So for our second book, then it became better. And our third book, and then when we started to help other people in their journeys, we really did perfect the process. But one thing I will say is this is a process that we have perfected over 4 years. I mean, there truly is no such thing as an overnight success. Everything builds upon the next launch and the next launch and the next launch. So when you're able to work with someone that has developed a system and that it's proven, and you also have book promo companies that you work with and you have relationships with, it does make it much better. Because you're right, if someone just randomly emails you and promises you all this social media stuff, well, that's when you got to Google, you got to do your research, and it really is a process. I truly believe that there's nothing difficult about publishing or marketing, but the challenge is that there's just so many tedious little bits, and if you don't get one thing right, it can completely derail your launch.
Well, the first book that I was in, I was asked to be part of a group that was doing the book. And the one that was publishing that had the system down. And I mean, we became overnight our international best-selling authors, because the book was number one in America one day, and by the night, we were overnight success in Canada. And I started getting a lot of calls from people, and I've been in a lot of books, but I guess I assume that if you have been listed as an international best-selling author in one book, that helps promote your book you do solo. It doesn't.
It all mixes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it all mixes in together. And it's funny that you mentioned that too. We actually are doing our very first Get Published business book, where we're featuring 100 different businesses. Our goal is to have half the businesses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I'm located, and the other half of businesses from across the world. And we're wanting to help share their story. But the nice thing with that is when you do launch a book like that, that you not only have yourself, you have your company, you have your own systems, but I also have another 100 people that are going to promote that book via social media, via Facebook, with selling copies of the paperback version. So when you do get together for those collaboration type of projects, it can be very beneficial, and it's a great opportunity to use that as a stepping stone for your own books. But also you have to always figure out, okay, well, how did this launch go well? What were some of the things that were used? And then able to utilize that. And when it's just one person doing that versus 100, then it definitely is a difference with getting that first book out there if you're not utilizing someone that helps you with the marketing portion of it.
Well, and if I were trying to redo this, what I've done already, I realized that I needed a group of people behind me doing the social media, just like we did for that book.
Yeah.
Because it does help when there are a lot of people that are aware this book is coming out on this day. And so since then, I have tried to help other authors who are publishing when I know that they're starting to launch a book on a particular day. I say, I'll help you. I'll help promote your book. And I've done that for many people, because it really does make a difference, in trying to get your book up to speed on either being number one or close to the top, where people know to search for your book, instead of it falling into a category where they can't find it. Mm-hmm. And I know that is something that I would do again. I would do differently if I were doing that. So.
Absolutely.
I'm being a little bit too honest to be on the air.
No. This is what we like. I like to have very honest and frank conversations, because there's a lot of wonderful things about publishing, but just like any other industry, there's also going to be other things. There's going to be these type of book promo companies that make you all these promises and they're not going to deliver. And I don't mind talking about that, because our main thing is, we talk about with our company is, it's a Latin phrase, veritas et utilitas, and it's truth and service. So I always like to have very honest and open conversations on the show, because not everything is perfect. There really is no such thing as an overnight success. It is learning, it is building your company, and then it's also getting that book out there and getting it done the right way. But it is a process. And, when I see some of these internet book gurus, these guys that promise you everything, and I'm just going, come on, guys. The main thing is we got to talk about the business perspective on this, and focusing on the cover, focusing on the book description, and also having it well edited. It doesn't look like a self-published book. It looks like a hybrid or traditionally published. And then let's focus on the marketing. But yeah, I could literally go on an hour rant with that, because I'm really passionate about this. And, I want to make sure that people are listening to this show. They get the best value, but the most important thing is that they realize, yes, There is a process, there is a system, but you have to go with the right people. And you have to make sure it's someone that you can
Right.
trust. And I'll tell you this, anytime I ever get pitched by another company or a potential partner, I ask one simple question, and that is, what are your core values? And if they cannot answer that question in under 5 seconds, I will not work with them. Same thing with clients. I'll ask them, hey, what are your core values? Mine, automatic, truth and service. We're always going to be honest with you. We're always going to be blunt with you. We're going to be a little too blunt at times, but it's mainly because we want to have our client's best interest at heart. And I've found when you do that, everything else takes care of itself. As you're talking about, when you are helping other authors with their books, that is a wonderful thing that you're doing. It's something that I do as well, whether someone's a client or not. Anyone asks me to support a book, I'm always going to do it. Because the beautiful thing is it comes back in a great way. When you help others, it comes back in a great way. And when you don't help people, if you just stop for yourself, that's going to come back in a different way as well. It's not going to be as good.
Right. And I have found that people are very kind and very generous when they know what your need is, but sometimes we fail to ask for help when we need it too. And that was one of the things that I just was in such a hurry to be able to get it launched before I did any of the preliminary work. But, you know, it's still a great book. I'm sold on being able to answer things. And accidentally, I found that there was a lady that had given me a video testimony about the book just by accident this last week. I didn't even know she had done it. I didn't ask for it. And she was giving a 2-minute testimony about what was in the book, even reading parts of it, and showing the kind of questions that I tried to answer for families that are really struggling. And that's the whole purpose. You know, my brand is Courage to Overcome, and I'm trying to help people find the courage to take care of their families, go through the challenges, and stick it out to help each other and not divorce, not separate, not try to leave a person behind and say they're no longer part of my family because they don't know me or because they're too hard to take care of. And it's a huge mission to be out there trying to make people aware of something they don't really think about until an emergency says you either had the birth of a child with a problem or your parent cannot survive another minute without your help, and you've got to come and take care of them. And that's when we struggle. We are in a bad situation that causes us to want help, but we don't know where to go, and we're afraid to tell somebody that I have a problem or they'll think I don't love my family. And, you know, I just want to break through that ceiling and say, hey, let's talk. Let's just get it all out there, and then you'll know everybody else is feeling what you felt, and it's okay to say it. We have feelings that they're hard to take care of, many situations that arise, but it's okay to say it's hard. There's somebody that can help you when you feel that way.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your favorite book. And believe it or not, this is actually the hardest question that I'm going to ask you. But what is your favorite book? And what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, I am a big self-help reader. I mean, I read all kinds of books, and I guess the ones I see in so many of them, though, so many things that people come up with have originated with scriptures. And that's what's, you know, right now it's all about, you know, what do you think, your mindset, and whatever you are going to call it. People call a lot on the universe or different ones to help them. It's really God that's behind all of creating us and helping us with the challenges. My favorite book is really the Bible. Next to that, it would probably be like Napoleon Hill or Zig Ziglar. I just love reading from them because when you get through, you find little nuggets all the time that you can hang on to, and then they can transform your life or your situation that you're in.
I think those 3 books are fine choices. I'm a big believer in all 3 of those, and also I love Zig Ziglar. I love his positivity.
Oh, me too. Me too. Well, Dale Carnegie's another one that I really like too. How to Win Friends and Influence People has been in the background all along. But, you know, there's just, if you're really looking for people that are going to build you up, focus on those kind of people because they really do make a difference. And it's not a bunch of woo-woo kind of beliefs. Mm-hmm. It's true. They believe in Scripture too.
Well, for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, my favorite quote is one that I have just designated. It's one of my own, and it's, "Be the voice for those who have no voice." And the reason I say that is because my mission, as long as I have breath in my body and I have a voice, is to try to speak up for those people who are the ones that cannot talk or they cannot speak up for themselves. And those are the ones with disabilities, with language barriers, or with, our older generation that just feels like they've been shoved aside. So for me, it's to learn, and it was not something I was comfortable with when I was a kid. You call on me, I was frozen stiff. I couldn't do it. But I've learned to speak up for others because that need has been in my own family first. I have a son with cerebral palsy, and he is 48 now. So I've been speaking up and screaming about things that we need for a long time to try to help other people, not just our family.
Well, Cheryl, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show today. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, if they want to go to Facebook or LinkedIn, those would be the quickest ways. And there are so many, there's so many people out there. I know it's hard for others to understand, but if they spell my name wrong, they won't find me. But it's spelled with a G, and it's Cheryl, Ginnings. But I would love to connect and get to know about them also.
Cheryl, thank you once again for being on the show. This was a lot of fun today. I really enjoyed having you on, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here, and thank you for what you do for so many people.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.